Hello everyone. Welcome to this digital learning platform of Department of College Education. In this picture, you s- you can see a man walking towards nature. He is surrounded by nature. He is alone. He is away from all the specific features of modernization like industries, machines, vehicles, city, all that. He's in pursuit of something which is the beauty of nature as well as a very meditative part of life. He's certainly alone in his search to that a kind of spiritual, a kind of natural atmosphere. Yes, dear viewers, today in this video we are going to attempt a discussion of the Scholar Gipsy by Mathew Arnold, a critical evaluation of the poem. The way you observed in the picture in the opening, Matthew Arnold's mind was also in a conflict which he reflects through the example of this objective correlative of the scholar gypsy. He finds vent for his feelings of boredom, melancholy, loneliness, and a chaotic situation of the modern world through the example of the scholar gypsy who renounced all such disturbances of the modern world and went in search of a nature's peaceful world and also a spiritual about. Yes, the poem which is in 10 line which is in 25 stanzas of 10 lines opens with a rustic setting the poem in a pastoral setting of calling the shepherds, describing the lives of shepherds, and it elaborates to the story of the scholar gypsy by recounting the story of Joseph Glanville, who wrote a book named The Vanity of Dogmatizing in 1661. Taking the source or based on the source of Joseph Glanville's Vanity of Dogmatizing, Arnold uses the scholar gypsy to give his moralizing or criticism of life. He takes up the example of the scholar gypsy who renounced the modern world and went in search of a peaceful natural world which lies in contrast with that of the industrial, disturbed, chaotic, modern world of the end of Victorian era. Therefore, he takes up the discussion of the peculiarities of the scholar gypsy, who, unlike others, do not, does not likes to be materialistic in his approach. His preference is to nature. His observations, his stay, his walk is in the nature's path. He even wants to be away from all those temptations of the modern world. Therefore, he disappears from all. Though many had seen him, it is impossible to locate him now, identify him now. Again, the poet says he's recounting the story of Joseph Granville, written almost 2 centuries ago. In the story, the scholar Gypsy was an Oxford student who renounced his studies, who went out of the city life of Oxford and in search of that happiness, in search of the gypsy lore, the art of the gypsy people, the trade secrets. He renounced all the temptations, the pleasures, the happiness of the modern world, what we say, and found that happiness in the nature's world, natural world. But we came to know that it was a story written 2 years back, sorry, 200 years back, I mean almost 2 centuries back, which means Scholar Gypsy is no more. He lies in the grave now amidst of flowers. But Arnold is of the sort that he says that the Scholar Gypsy is not dead. He's immortal because he renounced the world, because he had that one firm aim, one firm business, as he states in the poem. He had one definite aim of achieving something in that spiritual or natural world. He therefore never disturbed by the ambiguities, chaotic situations of the modern world. He's not troubled by the varieties, the confused states that the modern world poses to someone. It's here he holds distinctions and he becomes in contrast, he appears in contrast with others. What distincts him, what makes him different from that of others, contrasts him with others, is his firm aim, a definite decision, right? That definite decision is of learning the gypsy lore, the skill, the art of the gypsies, and associating himself with that of that natural world. Yeah, when we move ahead, this is what the thing that we have seen in the poem. To come to the critical appreciation, we will see that the context and the setting of the poem. The poet wrote this poem when the Victorian society, after the onset of industrialization, was in the rapid pace of development. The old ways and old systems were replaced by the modern system, and the thinking of the people, the old method of thinking, was also replaced by the modern way of outlook, looking at life. This change in the society gave way, it paved way for new system as well as new problems also. New system of industry, new system of technology entered the society. Along with that, new problems emerged. People faced a kind of conflict in their minds, which to choose. They became very skeptical, to doubt about the things already existed. The first doubt that Arnold criticizes here is the doubting of very faith they had, the religious faith, for example. People get distracted from one another. The society was a divided fragment. This is the experience of the poet, which he reflects in the poem to make the poem a reflective poem of Victorian society. Then he identifies that common problem of isolation or alienation. That's a typical problem or feature of a modern society. How people lost faith in one another and how they became separated from one another. They cannot be in bond now. They cannot be in relationship. And the result is frustration and pessimism. The very base for all that frustration and pessimism is the loss of faith. Maybe your religious, maybe the religious faith, or maybe the faith among human beings, among human beings. This loss of faith has led people to that kind of frustration and pessimism. Therefore, the poem opens with such a context, and in the setting you find the poet places it in a very melancholic and elegiac tone. Throughout the poem, there is a kind of a feeling of nostalgia over the loss of the past life, where he's not happy with uh, the existing society and its trends. The setting is, of course, rustic, opens very attractive, praising or describing the pastoral ambience, the shepherd, the sheep, the bleating of the sheep, the farmers reaping the corn, and all that. Here he places that the place, the setting, away from that of the modern world, maybe Oxford in this case. Oxford lies in a distant place, therefore, placing it in a very peaceful atmosphere of the pastoral world. Again, the poet uses the conventional technique of contrast. First, initial stanzas introduces the peaceful atmosphere and brings us into a very disturbed state of mind. Thus, he highlights the disturbance in the society in the backdrop of peaceful pastoral atmosphere. Again, you see, the poem is a kind of a, a two narrative story, two narrative poem. I mean, here you find on the one hand the story of Joseph Granville, that is about the scholar gypsy renouncing the hassles of modern life, disturbances of modern life. On the other hand, the speaker's story of the whole thing. The speaker recalls that he recalled Granville's story. The poem therefore involves two stories, the story of the scholar gypsy and the story of the speaker who makes a lot of comments about the modern life, criticism of life. That is what Arnold is trying to attempt. For Arnold, poetry is criticism of life. He should convey some morals to the humans through poems. Therefore, he is trying to attempt that in this poem also. He tries to find solution to the existing problem, by making a criticism of life. He makes a kind of self-introspection in the poem. He initiates the self-introspection by reflecting the conflict of his own mind as a conflict of the whole modern generation there. So he places a very set, peaceful pastoral background and introduces that quest for happiness, the quest for peaceful mind, a quest for solution, search for solution to the problems of the modern life. That is how the setting or context of the poem is there. When come to the theme of the poem, the beauty of nature and the country life is the primary theme. Here you find the influence of William Wordsworth on Arnold, the romantics on Mathew Arnold. Therefore, the preceding romantic era to the Victorian era has its some traces in the Victorian poets also. That is reflected in the example of Mathew Arnold. He first two stanzas in the poem, for example, makes a very apt description of the pastoral world, just like that of romantic poets. The next concern is of loss of faith and isolation in life. There are two things in the theme here. Loss of faith, that has led to that boredom of life, that confusion, or moreover that melancholy of life. It has made people in isolation. People lead life in isolation. The developments of science in science and its impact on people is created here. Just think of the present era, dear students. For example, the developments are desirable, true. For example, we have cell phones in our hand now. These are desirable too, but sometimes we devote too much to it, to the extent that we don't communicate with our own kids and kins or parents in our own home. This is where we see the impact of modern uh, developments or technology on the relationships, on the human relationships, right? And the third important thing is melancholy and boredom of modern life. The hassles and hazards of modern life affected life, and it has created melancholy, a sadness among the people, and it has a kind of boredom of modern life. And the poet is therefore throughout the poem is very melancholic in his tone. Melancholic in the sense he expresses sadness through his tone over the loss of faith, loss of aim and spirit of life also, because he speaks of that there is a generation now, according to him at that time, during his era, they were losing that one aim, because he contrasts the scholar gypsy with that of them and says the scholar gypsy is immortal because of one aim, one business, isn't it? So therefore, the spirit of life, the loss of faith, the loss of spirit of faith, life, loss of aim is the concern of the poet. So you observe here that Arnold is very much concerned with the Victorian society for that matter, right? He is therefore melancholic, therefore he is elegiac in tone, and he wants something to be done to that. Therefore, he is very critical towards the problems of modern civilization. He exposes them. Maybe there are cynical notes about him. There are people who have claimed that he's very cynical in approach or very pessimistic. But that is not the thing. In that pessimism, he wants to find some hope, wants to find some solution to the existing trends. He appreciates, therefore, the rustic atmosphere and the simple life of the rustic or pastoral world. And he wants to find solution in that itself. Renunciation of this modern world, I mean, the peculiarities of the modern life is the solution. He's pessimistic over the divided minds, actually. The aims of the world, divided aims of the world. They don't have any specific purpose. The people are running without any proper purpose. That focused purpose is no longer observed, and that has created problem, or that has become a point of melancholy. And therefore the poem is a poem with elegiac tone, but certainly it's not an elegy. An elegy is a sad poem written over the loss of somebody or something, or death of somebody. This is not mourning over the death of anybody, but it has a tone of elegy, right? Elegiac tone in the sense it's feeling loss of something in society. Yeah, when come to the literary elements, the rhetorical devices used in the poem, we see imagery, contrast, simile, and metaphor, all are, and many other important literary devices. To take up some, you see imagery, for example. He makes a very romantic description of the countryside, the Oxford countryside. Oxford countryside is described, the pastoral world is described with all its beauty. Look at, when you read the first two stanzas, the way shepherds work till sunrise to sunset, or the farmers reaping corn. All these are visual images that the Arnold is trying to portray. Again, another important literary element is contrast. You see a very clear contrast between pastoral life and disturbed modern life. The scholar gypsy and the other men of the modern era. Yeah, a kind of contrast is brought between two, and thereby he is trying to say which one is good and what is desirable. Then another important is simile. You see, minds were clear and fresh like the waters of the Thames. Scholar Gypsy was born when the minds were clear and fresh like the waters of the Thames. These lines in the poem can indicate a comparison is brought between the waters of the Thames and the clarity of mind, firm decision in mind, which was not diluted once upon a time. We have so many things, so much, so many things to dilute our mind today. Such kind of things were not there once upon a time, according to Mathew Arnold. And another example of running away from us as Dido or the Tyrian traders escape from the Greek sailor. These two examples, running away from us as Dido's example, or even the Tyrian trader escaping from the Greek sailor. By taking the example of Dido, a Tyrian trader, uh, Arnold is trying to say the scholar gypsy has to run away from the modern world or the modern people who are sick with those doubts. So therefore he wants, because it is infectious, in Arnold's opinion, the sickness of modern mind is infectious. It might spread and it might cover even the scholar gypsy. Therefore he has to be away from people like these two, the Dido and the Tyrian trader. See, here he uses the comparison using the word as, that's a simile. And we have a metaphor, that's a very important metaphor of the poem, that is the strange disease of modern life. The strange disease, as per Arnold, is that doubt in the mind, the conflict in the mind, which do not have any proper purpose, which the mind does not have any proper or definite purpose. He considers that as a disease because that has led to very uncomfortable state. And it is disease for another reason, that it might spread. It might even infect other minds. That is what Arnold is trying to say here. Then again, you see, the poem in total is a reflective poem in elegiac tone. It's a sad story of Scholar Gypsy, but at the same time, it's a reflection on the sadness which was increasing in the Victorian society. Of course, Arnold has admiration for the high ideals of the Scholar Gypsy, but that admiration is for the loss of those ideals among his contemporaries. He expects those high ideals of Scholar Gypsy among his contemporaries. That is what Arnold wanted in his society. Therefore, he's trying to make that criticism of life in his society, and he is trying to moralize the people through this poem. And he concerns with the life, and therefore he teach us how to live. Yeah, by reading this poem, we observe what kind of life is needed, the simplicity of life, associating ourselves with nature, not getting disturbed by the temptations of the modern world. That is what he is trying to say. And moreover, there is also a scope here to say that man's innocence and imagination leads to a happy life. This, because of the impact of modern, technological things, people are losing that innocence, at the same time losing imagination. And we know imagination is the essence of life, and therefore Arnold is trying to say there is a necessity of nurturing that imagination, just like you see in the case of the Scholar Gypsy's description. Thus the poem contrasts between two types of life using two narratives. One is of that of the speaker's narrative, the whole story, where he contrasts the modern world with that of the pastoral world. And there is another narrative of Joseph Granville referred in the poem, that is of the Scholar Gypsy's narratives. And through that, uh, Arnold identifies the strange disease of modern life, that is the doubt and the conflict in the mind. He advises the Scholar Gypsy to be away from it and Through that, he hints a solution for us. Keeping ourselves away from the infectious disease of the modern world, we can lead our life in a meaningful way. That's what he's trying to say as a solution, not to go near those infectious modern life's disease, the disturbances, the conflicts, the loss of faith in the modern life. The ideals of Gypsy should be the ideals of people, according to Arnold. He's trying to, therefore, project what is needed for life through the objective correlative, creating an objective as a correlation to what he wants to say. Therefore, a scholar gypsy is a model that the Arnold uses to give the people what to be done. Have one purpose. In pursuit of that purpose, we all have to struggle, we all have to strive. That is what Arnold is trying to convey. Thus, the poem is an excellent poem with a great display of Arnold's poetic genius. He uses variety of poetic elements and makes that poem is immemorable. And it's a poem that expresses disillusionment and discontentment with the modern life, and it teaches us a moral life to our future generation too. Remember, as we say, Arnold is the prophet of modern society. Though modern society was not yet began, we usually trace it after the First World War, but he was the one who made that, foretelling of the trends of modern society, forecast of the trends of the modern society in the Victorian society itself. Yes, dear students, thus by reading Arnold's Door Beach and his The Scholar Gypsy, we can understand the structure of the Victorian society, the trends of the Victorian society through the spectacles of a great poet, Mathew Arnold. Yeah, if we revise the story of the poem, the Arnold's poem, Dover Beach, it's a dramatic monologue in 4 stanzas with unequal lines. You see, it's a dramatic monologue carrying all the features of dramatic monologue. And in Dover Beach also, we just like the Scholar Gypsy, we find Arnold is trying to portray the peculiar features of his society. He identifies the disturbance in society, and he expresses his frustration and hopelessness of the modern chaotic world there. Here also we find that Arnold's technique of using a peaceful opening, right? Because in the um, first in the first few lines, in the first stanza, or in first till the middle of the first stanza, we find a very attractive, very beautiful description of the sea and the Dover beach. But after that, by placing that disturbance of the society in the opening, the poet goes on to introduce the chaotic world, the disturbance of the modern world. And he reveals a kind of melancholic situation, a very sad situation of the modern world. He finds the condition of loss of faith as the reason for that. Man's and nature relationship and love, all are some of the sub themes associated with that. He stresses on that man and nature relationship, and he considers a true love as a solution to that problem there. By very pessimistically projecting society, Arnold always has a hopeful note of finding some solution. In Dover Beach, it is through the concept of love, true love. Let us true to be each other, as he says, right? And the poem is also rich with symbols, images, and figures of speech. By that, Arnold's poem or his poetic excellence is evident in Dover Beach. A similar kind of thing that we observed in the Scholar Gypsy. In the poem Scholar Gypsy, it's a pastoral poem. In the Example of Door Beach, that is not a pastoral poem, right? Door Beach is set in the south coast of England, describing the nature in the beginning. Then it goes back to the past, because just like any dramatic monologue, it also moves to the past, but taking its privilege for the present by referring to Sophocles. And then it describes the critical condition of the present, how the sea of faith, which was once upon a time full and round the earth's shore, is not there now. And at the end he finds love, let's true to one another as a solution. Let us true to one another. So here he addresses some uh, uh, a, a passive listener, and he opens the poem very abruptly, and the speaker in the poem does not identify himself. And by all these we can place that as a perfect example of um, dramatic monologue. When come to the Scholar Gypsy, it's a poem in 25 10-line stanzas. You find 10-line stanzas. Okay, uh, 25 stanzas are there. The tone of the poem that he adopted is elegiac or melancholic, and reflecting the Victorian society's trend, highlighting the problem in Victorian society. Elegiac tone is used, and it opens in a, just like Door Beach, it opens in a rustic setting, right? Or Door Beach is opens in the south coast of England, but here also a happy opening is there, just like Door Beach, which has the nature's description in the opening, happy note. Similar note is available here also, but after the rustic setting, after calling the shepherds, therefore it is a pastoral one, a pastoral poem, because it has the shepherds and the pastoral atmosphere. It recounts the story of Joseph Granville, and after that it makes the description of the scholar gypsy, his peculiarities, and how he is different from others. But he states how scholar gypsy is immortal, and because he renounced the modern world, the temptations of the modern world, and moreover, he has that one definite purpose. And by considering all that, he highlights the distinctions scholar gypsy holds from that of others. Particularly, he identifies that firm aim in him, and how he is away from the infectious disease of modern mind. Therefore, that firm aim in him is makes him different from that of modern world. And finally, he advises scholar gypsy to be away from modern world, like the Tyrian trader, right? That is keeping himself in the same condition, right? Likewise, Arnold, through both the poem, here introducing the problem of the disturbance in society, melancholy, and boredom of modern life, finds the solution through the example of keeping oneself away from all that and having one firm decision or aim in life. Likewise, in both the poem, through the poems, that is Door Beach as well as the Scholar Gypsy, Arnold makes an attempt to criticize the present society, which had some weaknesses. The creeping in of sickness of modernization was the concern of Arnold, and he was trying to find some solution to that, and therefore he, as I have already told you, attempts a kind of criticism of life through the poetry. And that's why his poems become relevant even today, because it was concerned with society. Anyhow, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.